Welcome everybody to another Let's Get Digital, and actually give yourselves another round of applause for just showing up today, because we appreciate it. Good. This makes it interesting because we'll probably do a little bit of Q&A, because I know a lot of you are really interested in this topic, because as opposed to some of the other things, this is really crucial to building and growing your business if you are building something online and building an online business. So I'm just curious right off the bat, before we go too much into the topic today, which is e-commerce, how many people here own their own e-commerce business or are starting one? Okay, that's a pretty good selection of people. Okay, great. How many people here work in marketing to some extent otherwise, like digital marketing? Okay, cool. Awesome. So that's a pretty good gauge for the kind of people here. How many people are here, by the way, that have been doing e-commerce for less than 5 years? Okay, what about more than 5 years? Okay, so a little bit of advanced, a little bit of intermediate. Okay, great. Well, let's get back to where we are. So Let's Get Digital is a monthly event series that we put on for digital marketers in the area. We've been doing it for about 9 months. And every month we focus on a new topic. This one's e-commerce. And we bring together a panel of pros to talk about what's really working in the space and to really answer very tactical questions about how to grow and achieve the goals that you have in that space. So today we selected 3 awesome people that I'm actually really excited to introduce you to, because they have very, very different backgrounds in the space, but all I would consider to be operating at a pretty high level and can offer very specific advice for both practical and more advanced strategies that are working. So without further ado, let's bring up our panelists and have them introduce themselves. So come on up. This is a beer-friendly event, but we did provide waters. So one of the first things we do is we ask people to do 2 things. One is introduce who they are, and we do that by asking you to go through your name, the current role you have, which of course is up here, as well as like a relevant career highlight that sort of shows the kind of scale you've worked in, or it gives people an idea of why you were selected to be here. And then we have a quick fun question that happens after. So go ahead, you can just start, Matt.
Sure. I'm Matt Mitchell. I work up at ClickStop in Urbana. If you guys have seen the big building off the interstate in the middle of nowhere in the cornfield, that is us. I've been there for about 5 to 6 years. My title is Business Unit Fanatic, which probably means nothing to you guys here, but think of it as like a brand manager. I lean heavily on the marketing side. That's where my background is, but I work with other departments like sales, purchasing, warehouse, manufacturing to bring everything together for the brand. Focus on U.S. Cargo Control, which is the largest brand at ClickStop. So that's a little bit about me, my career, why it's interesting for me to be here. I've had 5 or 6 different roles at ClickStop, all marketing based. So I've got a pretty wide knowledge base on more of the front end, not the technical stuff, which I think some of these guys here have here too. So we got a good mix here. So yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, great. I'm Rick Bodey. I'm the Vice President of E-commerce at West Music, going on 2 years now. Before that, I worked at various startups, exiting 3 of them, and just consistently doubling down on my SEO, organic Google skills, Google Ninja stuff. So I have a lot of fun, definitely come from the technical side, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
I can say for sure that when you walked in here earlier, you had a Google hat on.
I did. We went
off.
through the Google Accelerator at West Music, and they sent me a hat for Christmas. So it was really good, and it's exciting to use the contacts and leverage that I have to get them over to West Music.
Good evening. I'm Tim Barch. I'm the Vice President of E-commerce for Nexus Brands, and so Nexus is a.
Oh wait, we got to turn your mic on real quick. I think.
It's on. Maybe just a little closer.
We go.
No, it's on. No, there's the feedback. You want to try that? Is that how you get that?
Well, luckily, everyone here in this small room can hear you just fine.
Yeah, go for it.
Let's do this.
There you go.
All right, so.
We're going to mix it up.
All right, let me start over. So my name is Tim Barch. I'm from Cedar Rapids here. I work remotely as the Vice President of Nexus Brands. And Nexus is a little bit unique in that it's not a company you would actually find. If you go to the website, you won't find anything. It'll be a little password protected thing.
That is correct.
Yeah, which Josh tried to figure out. And we'll go into why we're sort of a holding company, if you will, for a number of divisions. And it doesn't benefit us to have a website. So all of our brands in our portfolio do have websites, and that's a lot of what we'll talk about. Prior to Nexus, I worked for, I think around here, what you guys would know as J&P Cycles, which was out of Anamosa, and for a period of time, I believe J&P, it still may be, was the largest e-commerce site in all of Iowa, since it's maybe not located here anymore. I don't know if we can claim that. But I think probably the biggest sort of career highlight for me was the platform that it sits on now, at least parts of it, was authored by me and a few guys way back in 2009. Launched on March 3rd at about 5 in the morning. And so I think in a few years, depending on, I don't really know the numbers anymore, but it'll be close to probably transacting $1 billion. And I'm looking at someone over there for some visual confirmation. Yep, it'll be. So, I mean, that's kind of a neat thing to say, a platform that you worked on is moving close to $1 billion in sales over the last 10 years. So.
No kidding. Okay, you've probably learned quite a bit that you can apply today, so I'm excited for that. Here's the very important first question, which is, what is one of the last things that you bought online after seeing an ad? So we all scroll through the internet all day, and Instagram, Facebook, our team is asking you to buy something by targeting you, and most people skip over them. But every once in a while, that one thing, usually a toothbrush, catches your eye and makes you click and buy it. I'm curious for you, what was that thing?
I can start. Avid Facebook user, and Allbirds, these shoes I got on, hopefully you guys like them, hit me with probably 300 different ads, and I clicked on way too many of them where they probably didn't make any money on me. But turns out they're comfortable and great shoes, but they hit me with a lot of ads, and it worked.
I picked up a spinning top. So it's Forever Spin. They targeted me forever, and I'm like, no way. And then they ran a sale, and I'm like, all right, I'm a sucker. I'm going to get it. So you can spin it for mindfulness, gives you a 5-minute break, and I carry it everywhere now.
Two things. One I bought, one I didn't. So the thing that I purchased just out of a whim, because I like to read, was Mentor Box, which hit me up a ton, which sort of will later go on to bad practices that they do that I don't like. The one that I didn't buy that we're close, we're still on the fence. Our kids like these goggles. Have you seen these glasses that have liquid in them to help you with motion sickness? So our kids are always in the car, and they're looking down at devices and complain of motion sickness, that there's these little plastic glasses that look goofy. Maybe that's just a little cosmic joke. But they help with motion sickness. So.
There you go. This will be the conversation after the event, as I want to hear everyone's answer to this. As embarrassing as it gets, the better. So the first question related to your own business experience that I want to know for the context for the people in the room. We talked a little bit about your background, but what can you share about the scale and scope of the operations that you run today? So you all oversee e-commerce in very different niches. And I'm very curious, just so we know maybe what you can share, not necessarily top line revenue, but maybe the size of the team that you work with, the number of SKUs you oversee, the amount of traffic the website gets. What can you tell us about sort of the scope of the e-commerce operations you run?
Sure. So for U.S. Cargo Control, we've got millions of sessions a year. I've got a team of 6 that work closely with me on the marketing side, as well as support from IT and others. We're doing 8 figures on the web, more for the brand overall. The web's actually about a third of the business we do. We do more offline, traditional, with business development consultants going out talking to large fleets and that sort of thing. But we've got about 11,000 SKUs on our website, selling there, and Amazon, all the third parties, and everything we can do to drive traffic and get more customers.
Okay.
We're going to do a dance.
I know.
Mic dance.
Okay, there we go. West Music, 8 locations, and we do more online than all 8 combined. So it's pretty amazing the footprint that we have on a national level with the e-commerce site. We've got 17,000 SKUs and 38 key categories. If you Google recorders right now, like you used to play in middle school, we are number 2 and 4. Depending on what day you look at it. So I've got a team of 5, and all focusing on different channel verticals, but we are set up as a cross-functional team and help support each and every one of us. So that's it.
Nexus is a little bit different in that what I would tell you about our scale is that we, as of 2017, we're about 4 companies. We are now 11, and probably by the end of this discussion, 13. So we're heavily in acquisition mode. So we're constantly... So on my whiteboard in my office, I have 2 things to grow the companies we have organically, and then we grow acquisitively. And so we're always looking for other companies to acquire. And so for us, on an overall SKU count, there is roughly 50,000 SKUs across what is turning into be 4 divisions. One is a European division, 3 are US-based divisions across 11 companies. And so we're growing pretty dramatically. In fact, we'll double in size. We've already doubled once. We'll double again in the next 6 months and double again after that in another 12 months.
All right. So the kind of questions that we ask at Let's Get Digital are a combination of like what's working from a marketing perspective as well as technical, experience for people that are trying to build their own platform. And so it seems like a few people raise their hands about building their own e-commerce operations, and you guys are operating at a pretty big scale. So I'm aware that this answer might not totally translate, so you can caveat it if you want. But what are the platforms that you do recommend building on and for scale when it comes to your owned e-commerce properties? So as an example, what are your sites built on, if that's relevant, if those matter between the different stores you have, and what do you generally recommend to people?
Sure. So we've been on NetSuite for 10 plus years for the ERP. I've integrated that to the front end as well, from Site Builder and SuiteCommerce Advanced. Tim and I were just talking about this right before we started. There's pros and cons of that. I wouldn't say it's my favorite platform. We're actively looking into others. For some of our smaller brands, ClickStop's got 8 or 9 different brands total. Most of the larger enterprise level brands are on SuiteCommerce Advanced. So there's pros and cons to it for sure. What we found or struggled with the most is every time you want to add a third-party tool to the base, it becomes a big integration. There's not a ton of options out there with pre-built NetSuite integrations from third-party tools. So it becomes an experience as opposed to you look at a Shopify user that you can go to their store, download 10 different plugins, and go pretty quickly. So there's pros and cons to different scenarios, but that's what we run into most recently at our end.
Yeah, so West Music, they run .NET, custom CMS platform, but that's the main e-commerce site. But they also have proprietary brands that's all run on WordPress with WooCommerce. I definitely recommend the LAMP stack, especially starting out, or Shopify. But once you get into enterprise and working with an ERP and some big databases, you need like a Magento or an advanced WordPress WooCommerce. I own a couple smaller e-commerce sites, and they're all on WordPress and WooCommerce. It's just you get what you pay for, and different CMSs work for different levels that you're playing at. But you just got to take it at the right moment, at the right time. West Music's roadmap will most likely move to Magento for that omni-channel experience, but right now we're at a .NET CMS.
So for Nexus across our companies, what we do is we really look for within a division to have a technology stack that's consistent to get some leverage and capabilities. And so some platforms that we're using, we are using NetSuite in one of our divisions. It's okay from a website perspective. It's typically not the best performer for some of the reasons Matt mentioned. We also, our European division's running off of Magento, which is okay. I think Magento is out there has historically been a good entrant point because it had a community version and you could scale it from there. For us, though, a lot of the companies we acquire are founder-led businesses. They may be small, not have a website, or even if they've got a website, it's been neglected. And so we will typically employ a small and big strategy. The small, if you're a small commerce player, we'll turn you on to Shopify, typically because you're a little bit unleashed in terms of the ability to move more quickly and nimbly from the business perspective. Once you get to a large enough scale, then we're more interested in the ability to customize the platform. So if we are in a Magento world, or in one of our other companies is on a platform called Episerver, which is on the .NET stack. We are actually employing or building up a development team internally so that when we hit a large enough scale and we want to do something the platform can't quite do, or we can build it ourselves. So that's what we end up doing. It's really small, large. So I think for most of the people internally here of the platforms, I think there's probably some element of this is that there's recommendations. Nobody's probably coming out of here buying NetSuite because it's a really more of an enterprisey type tool. But the Magentos and the Shopifys are probably really good starters. There's just got to be some migratory path maybe off of Shopify at some point, depending on what they do. It's just not probably a long-term. You're not seeing a lot of huge companies on Shopify. Shopify will tell you otherwise, but there's not a lot of companies that are very big on Shopify.
That's interesting. I don't know how we did not get one of these companies to sponsor this talk, because this was like the best pitch for and against certain companies. Okay, note to the team for the next time. I want to talk about another big brand name that we talk a lot about in e-commerce, and we'd be remiss not to do it up front too, which is Amazon. And I'm curious how many of you have diversified your business by beginning to use that as a distribution channel, use that as a sales channel. I want to talk about the pros and cons of the Amazon opportunity overall, and then your company's philosophy on how you use those platforms. So take that with what you will.
All right, then.
And Jeff Bezos does not listen to this, so you feel free to.
Are you sure? Do you have any echo devices in here?
They're always listening.
We've been on Amazon for a long time, probably 8+ years, utilizing Seller-Fulfilled Prime, FBA, Merchant Fulfilled, all the above. We view it as an alternative way to get more eyeballs on our products. There's statistics out there that 55% of product searches start on Amazon. So if we rely on them to either come direct to us or find us on Google, it may not happen anymore. And I think that trend's probably going to even shift more in the future, the way Amazon's trending. So we view it as another way to get traffic, to get sales. We've tried to turn it into, how can we drive repeat customers out of that? And it's difficult because Amazon protects their customer, and you can't do a lot of communication with your customers. So we've done stuff like adding order inserts in the boxes, trying to get them to come back to us, or get B2B buyers to communicate with us via Amazon's business buyer platform. So we're pro Amazon. We're also in a niche where they're not spending a lot of time, so there's not a lot of Amazon basics floating around there that we're competing with, which probably makes us a bit more pro Amazon than other people. But we've definitely seen the competition really step up in the last couple of years. Trying to rank for top searches is getting more and more difficult just with the volume of listings out there for us.
Yeah, so we're also pro Amazon. What the founder, or Steve West, told me was, back when they started West Music, it was a detriment to be in the middle of the country. Now you can ship to both coasts in 2 days. So that really helps us. We have a huge warehouse out on the way to Tiffin that you'd never know is there, that's got laser picking and everything you'd see at an Amazon fulfillment. Amazon, we also, based on my Google tactics, we found out we could target anybody who does a Google search and goes to Amazon. So that's a new feature that Google opened up, is that you can use custom affinity audiences based on URL for organic. This is just me nerding out, but they don't let you market to their Amazon customers, but you better believe if they search for recorder in Yamaha, all they're going to see for ads from that point forward is going back to my site. So really excited that Google opened up all the organic listings, because they're not getting paid from organic, they're getting paid from us. Another thing to look at is that Amazon does 15% commissions across the board. But if you look at ROAS of how Google likes to translate it, if you see a 1 to 10 ROAS, that's a 10% sales commission. So you're not that far off. It's just a different way to phrase it. So there's a lot of benefits to Amazon. And when you get up in scale, it can really move some products quickly.
So maybe I'll be the detractor. I think Amazon has its place, but largely, I work in a private equity-backed company, and we are a little bit concerned generally. We often, it's a verb now, Amazon. A company was Amazoned. And I think when I think of a children's story of Hansel and Gretel, and there's an appeal to Amazon in that it's got eyeballs and traffic, and you can get there. It is Wayfair's in the same boat, where they will start knocking off your products. And so over time, if you know that, you can maybe guard defensively against that. But if you're putting your products out there and selling through Amazon, you are getting access to and you're paying them a commission, but there's also a long game where they're figuring out if there's enough margin, can they source it cheaper and better and over time replace you. And so I look at Amazon not too dissimilarly as in, call it 100 years ago with the Sears catalog. You just wanted to get placement and you're getting access to people. And then it turned into JCPenney. If I can get shelf space at the mall at JCPenney, that was good. Amazon is far more aggressive nowadays in terms of replacing what you're doing. So yes, you're getting access to their platform. They are not constrained by apparently warehouse size or anything anymore. But even online, they can load any product, and so they can throw out products and let you compete on them, see what's selling, and then go source out of China themselves. Right. So I think that if you're with Amazon, it can be a blessing and a curse, and I think that you just have to be very careful. You're playing with fire in some ways, at least from our perspective, because we've seen brands go there and die. And so our hedge against, so I guess that's our hedge against Amazon. We have a lot of brands. We try to make brands very popular from product development and the products that we're putting out, that we're not just putting out Me Too products. So we've invested very heavily on the types of products and making new advancements for all of our companies, so that if we do get sold on Amazon, people are at Amazon looking for us. They're not just having to come by and say, oh, Amazon Basics. Yeah, that's the equivalent. We don't ever want to be considered the equivalent of the generic brand. We want people to pay for our stuff. If we're there. And there are a few places we are on Amazon. So ultimately for us, it's about creating strong and engaging brands. And a lot of times that comes back to in a particular industry, and we're in the major industries we're in the tattoo industry, which is sort of fun. We're in the pet supply space, and then also medical aesthetics. And so in those places, there's a lot of opportunity, and there's a lot more consumer spending in those areas, but it also makes it an opportunity for us to do a lot more product development and launch new and interesting stuff. And that sort of creates brand loyalty and interest in your brand, and that is a hedge for us against Amazon, Amazon doesn't do good at branding. They're a marketplace, they're just great at logistics and knocking people off.
Very cool. You might be the only person in the world that has the Venn diagram where you're in the middle of pet supplies, tattoos, and medical equipment. That's kind of an interesting one. That's fascinating. That's the e-commerce opportunity. So thank you for giving your pitch on Amazon, and we have more opportunity for it because what I want to ask next is maybe where someone would have answered that, which is, in your perspective, what is the most overrated e-commerce marketing tactic or practice that you see people do? Like, everyone talks about it, it doesn't work in your mind, or it's overrated. And what is the most underrated? You think more people should be doing that. So what is your pitch for each? Feel free to start, whoever's, I feel like Tim's like barking at this.
They are all overrated. I mean, and what I mean by that is that there is no magic pill, right? For some, I mean, Josh, you're big into social media, and social media has its place, and there's brands that have made large amounts of money on social media. It may not work for your brand. Mm-hmm. It may be email. It may be, and so it's both. The answer, tongue in cheek, is both. What is the most overrated and underrated is all of them, because I think a lot of times people try to come in at the service. Okay, I'm sending email. Okay, I'm spinning that plate. I'm going to come over here and spin a little bit of social media, and then I'm going to come over here and do some funnels, and then I'm going to go over here and do some A/B testing, and you're not really good at any of them. And so I think that if you can go find the ones that show a little bit of promise and know them really, really well, some of the things that Rick was talking about in terms of targeting can be pretty powerful if you know how to leverage those particular platforms. And so that, I mean, I think that there's a lot that's out there that comes up as kind of flash in the pan, and all of them have their day and space and time, I think, for the brands, but that's
fair point.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I look at is just similar to what you were saying, is just being the best you can be at the thing that you're going after. Don't halfway do it, because really that channel integration is really converging now. So the biggest ones that I look at is SEO and PPC. The playbook of what gets you ahead is now very similar. So paid traffic, there is no such, or Google free traffic, there is no such thing. It takes your time, it takes your effort. So it's not always the best choice. A $500 budget will tell you real quick if ranking at the top will make you money. So we look at AdWords as being the lab and not the long-term focus, where Google Organic, people are very trained to move down into the organic rankings past the paid. But just having all of those in play and being a master of a few of them, you can go really far.
Tim, I was thinking something similar to what you were. It's really about what works for your company and your customers. We've tried everything. We're even going back to some more traditional things like radio and billboard for the market we have in a truck. So as saturated as some of the digital spaces get, there's things that open up that were traditional that aren't sexy but have space and aren't as cluttered as email and social and some other things too. So it's really a matter of what fits for your customers, your brand, and what you guys are trying to accomplish. Yeah, that's where my
So if you're doing traditional placements, are you looking at those as brand awareness air cover, and then you're going to measure somehow just based on volume, based on overall direct traffic, or are you looking at do you set those up as a direct response where there's an offer, there's something that people are seeing? How do you guys do traditional marketing?
Yeah, we haven't done a ton of it yet. This is more of a recent thing we're working on, but there's some things that we're trying to get attribution for because we're going to spend a marketing dollar on it. We're trying to attribute as much as we can back to some sort of return. We're also working on just understanding that we need to spend more in the brand awareness space, that they don't know who we are, they can't buy from us. So there's not a simple answer. When you're talking radio, it's easy to put a promo code out there and track that. There's a bunch of tools and technology coming out where you can measure where things were placed in terms of radio and billboard, and see are you getting more hits to your website within that time frame. So there's definitely tools and things coming out that can help with that.
Yeah, and something to jump on that from the traditional, we send out 200,000 catalogs, and we have over $1 million come in via fax. And it's my job to get them to the website with a promo code, their source code, to get attribution. But yeah, traditional is very much still alive.
We do.
How do I get in that fax game?
So we do a lot of traditional things in terms of direct mail, and for us, we do a lot of matchbacks, and so that's sort of a, we do a lot of holdout testing. So for those of you who get catalogs, the idea is if there's 2 panels, I'm going to mail, all of you are in the same panel. I'm going to take half, and half's going to get a catalog, and half's not, and I'm going to measure all of you. And if I get 5 orders out of this side and 7 orders out of this side, the presumption would be that there was 2 incremental orders, so I can start to calculate back. And so on some level, it gets really hard to track online and offline, but to the extent that we do a lot of direct mail, coming out of, actually J&P, actually up the street, used to be one of the largest direct mailers in all of Iowa. I think when it was like 13 million catalogs a year. And so quite a bit of direct mail. And so there's a lot around testing and in that realm. I think Matt's point about if you're in the larger space, radio can be very, very effective, but it's like, how do you track it back to your website? There are tools that will help you do that in terms of time it was played to when you saw, on your site. But yeah.
Well, another channel, since you had brought it up, Tim, about social, I'm really curious, since that maybe is gets a little bit more conversation generally than other ones, and it is a really smart acquisition channel for certain niches, clearly, but a couple of you have some less obvious, sometimes more boring niches, as you'd call it, right? Which is where most of the money typically is. I'm curious, how do you look at social, both as an awareness channel, as an acquisition channel? How do you guys use it? How big of a deal is it generally in your organization yet? Is it something you're looking at as like, this is a future opportunity, or is this you take it very seriously and it's made a big dent? And if so, what is working? For any of you.
So for us, we've been using primarily Facebook, a little bit of LinkedIn. We do a lot of B2B marketing. That's where we're trying to scale. We sell to B2C as well through the website, and if they come in, great. That's not really our focus. So it's a little bit different on social for us. We're using Facebook as a way to kind of humanize our brand, engage with our customers, and try to add value in a little bit of a different way. We are testing our foot in the water in terms of paid placements on Facebook, trying to understand if we can add value and different ways we can do that. So right now we're focused on a lot of retargeting, some of the low-hanging fruit type stuff where we can get customers back to our website, make sure that we're top of mind when they're making that purchase decision. But we're just getting our feet dirty and putting some lead ads out, video lead ads, to create audiences that we want to spend more money targeting on Facebook. So
yeah. Social, we augmented our team with Sculpt, so we work with them to this school season.
That's not an intentional plug.
Yeah, right. But no, yeah, I mean, the biggest sell was like Josh coming to us and say, how much does social media attribute to your overall goals? And I had not figured that out into the equation. So it was a no-brainer, looking at our skill sets and knowing when to make that right investment of a digital agency. Everything else is in-house, so it's good. So there you go.
From our perspective on our brands, there's 2 sides to the social media, and we'll talk Instagram for us and Facebook are the things. From an advertising perspective, Facebook is phenomenal, like what you can target. And unfortunately for us, it doesn't really work that well because we work in 2 of the major industries. We would want to target tattoo, people that put tattoos on bodies, so tattoo artists. Well, that's sort of a self-reported thing. That's not something, we estimate there's 100 to 150,000 in the United States. And so that's not a large audience. They're all on Facebook typically, but finding them is pretty hard. But if you want to find a mother who has kids who play soccer and she's, you can find those people all day. So when we're in the motorcycle industry, it was great for targeting because there was a large pool of people to go after. But for us, it doesn't tend to be that great for acquisition because it's such a large, small and limited group. We do some advertising there, following up on certain things and some general awareness. The other place that's really important for us is the authenticity side. So Facebook is really clamping down in general, as you would have expected it to, on organic placements, and they're pushing more. You have to pay to be in people's feeds and things like that. But generally, in the tattoo side, it's all about being authentic. If you walk, there's probably about 5 tattoo shops within a stone's throw of this place, and they're a certain breed of people that appreciate authenticity. So if we can communicate with them on that level and realize that we're in the industry, we just get higher mind share when they go to buy. And so that's one of the areas where we use it in sort of the more traditional format. When you think back to social media, there's tons of advertising tools. Unfortunately, just none of them have played out for us yet because of this what we believe are the real niche groups and cohorts.
Mm-hmm. Well, then let's talk about what is definitely working. So we talked about some general trends, but just from your organization, as much as you're willing to share, what has been the biggest ROI breakthrough channels or programs that you've implemented just to inspire our group, maybe let them jot some of their own ideas down. But what are the either the funnel, the sequence, the type of programs, campaigns, channels that you've put together that you think, if you said this has a just consistent ROI or ROAS, as you were saying earlier, return on ad spend, what should they think of and what can they learn from you guys?
Yeah, I'll start. So for us, the channel winners have been sort of not excitingly direct mail and paid search. And some of those are contextual because for our businesses, I would say more process oriented. The first thing we do when we acquire a company is spend a lot of time with them in terms of how are they thinking about their business. And a lot of the times the companies are so entrenched in their processes, they've lost sight of the customer. And so we'll go back and start talking about what does your customer want. And oftentimes that very quickly turns into actually carrying different sets of products or expansion of lines. And what we end up doing is actually going back and we've mailed some folks, we've put data in front of our own people where we'll show that customer acquisition is going down and how do you best win these folks back. And for us, we were able to put a catalog in front of some folks and then engage in some paid search. And for us, our business is based on a lot of repeat customers. Again, there's not a huge audience in the tattoo world or in the dog grooming and veterinarian space. There's not a ton. So it's all built on repeat business for us, and so that's why we will invest more heavily. Would I love to convert somebody on a 5-cent click or a 50-cent click? Sure, but we'll spend $5 to $10 to send you a sample or a catalog so you can try our product, because if we can get you, I know how much you're going to spend in the first 12 months, and over your lifetime, it far outweighs, So we're not trying to do a one and done, which a lot of places are. You're not, neither of these guys up here. There's a lot of companies out there that are just trying to, think of Chia Pet. You're going to buy a Chia Pet at Christmas, and then you're done. That's not it's not a very small few people. That you're not buying Chia Pets all the time. You got to get them while they got them. So we're all about repeat business. So we try to stay away from some of the gimmicky stuff and build deeper relationships.
Although Chia Pet as a service, that is a good new idea.
It's like the Netflix. We're going to be the Uber of Chia Pets.
There you go.
That's funny. No one's done that pitch yet. I don't know. Someone write that down.
One of the things that are working the best for us is Google organic category pages. So I always would be amazed when I was in the digital agency. They want to rank for whatever they want to rank for, whether it be Dallas recruiting or anything like that. I say, okay, where does that say that on your website? So category recorders, ukuleles, recorders, acoustic guitars, you name it. But those categories, those root keywords, nobody goes after them because they're hard. But if you on-site optimize, if you do all the right things, those pay off huge. So that's where categories are really coming in. And then AdWords, Google AdWords has the highest ROAS, return on ad spend per channel. Google Organic has the highest ROI, but just targeting your competitors' terms, figuring out what they're doing and trying to pick the low-hanging fruit can pay off very, very quickly because they've been buying for the last 5 years and you're just entering the space, so you can cherry pick the best ones that have been running the longest time. Because if they're spending money on it, there's a reason they've been spending money on it. And if you can compete with something of similar value, then yeah, you're in the game.
Yeah, so for us, it's very similar to what these guys have said. Google Organic, anything you can do from an SEO standpoint to get free traffic. To Rick's point, it's not free because you got to work at it, but you don't have to pay $1 to bring them there once it's there. So we've built a lot. When Rick's saying recorders, for us it's ratchet straps and moving blankets and a bunch of stuff that you may or may not have used. It's not the sexiest stuff in the world, but it sells and it makes money for us. So it's Google, it's PPC. We built the company on PPC to drive traffic, build customers. We built our brand around repeat customers, getting those guys to come back. Obviously the acquisition cost, all the things we've talked about here are expensive, and it costs a lot to acquire a customer. So anything we can do to drive the repeat customer and create that first sale, we're doing. It starts with PPC, and then we're using a lot of email marketing to get them back and create repeat customers. We've got one person that's probably half of her role, driving a ton of revenue through email, just staying relevant, keep staying top of mind, and making sure that when they're ready and have a need, they come back to us.
Like, what's an example? Just one quick email marketing, like this campaign worked, topic, obviously in some it's like the birthday email, right? Or the offer a code for that. In your industry, like what is the one thing that consistently has driven back repeat customers for people? Because everyone here does email marketing.
Sure. For us, it's been focused on automation. We do some bash and blast stuff. It's more blog posts, content type stuff to stay relevant and add value in a different way. But automations from abandoned cart, browse abandonment. We've got a tool called Winter Circle where it's using predictive algorithms to say, hey, you've bought this every couple of months for the last couple of times. You're about ready to make a purchase. Like, let's place an email in front of you when you're about ready to make that decision. Make sure you come back to us again. So we've been testing that stuff. There's pros and cons to it. It's an expensive tool, but that technology is only getting better, and that's, I think, the future of email there.
Yeah, marketing automation, win-back series, cart abandonment, and then recommended products, similar to what you said. I mean, it's just a moneymaker every time, just mining that database. And it's easier to keep a customer than to acquire a new one. So you want to do everything you can to provide promotions, figure out that lifetime value, and play the long game, and really model it out. And marketing automation has a big play in that.
We're on the automation bandwagon as well, but I guess to put some meat on the bone, we have over the last, when we look at the sort of the pie chart of some of our customers and what they buy in their wallets, so wallet share is kind of a thing. We pay attention to where we think customers should be buying. So if you're buying a printer, you should be buying paper, and if you're buying paper, do you need a pen? So we sort of look for gaps in sort of the, I guess the basket, if you will, or even over a couple purchases, what people are buying. And so we'll target people that have not purchased in one category, but are purchasing in a complementary category, so that eventually if we can win them over, and sometimes that's educational, they don't like our products, or maybe they don't know enough about it. Sometimes it's promotional. If we can just get the hook in them, then they'll buy from us. But over time, it's that repeat customer. And so we don't do a lot of abandoned cart type programs because we feel like that's a little bit short term. They work, don't get me wrong. But we don't want to train our customers that if you leave the site and then there's going to be a coupon coming in a few minutes later. I think a lot of people here, just by the nods I'm getting, probably go to the site, put something in their cart, and walk away for a day just to see what happens. Maybe you'll get an extra 10, 20% off. If you haven't, you will now try that as a tactic for shopping. And but for us, we try to play a little bit of wallet share. How do we get you to spend more? And obviously, we'd like to buy certain products more than others. But at the end of the day, can we just get you to spend more? If you go to the grocery store, you're buying milk and meat. Why are you buying milk at one place and maybe you go to Fairway for the meat just because Fairway's been, you've been heard it's great? Well, maybe we can convince you that our meat's just as good and we can get more of your grocery money or whatever it is, just more wallet share. So again, that long game, we're ultimately trying to get as much as we can from you. We can't drive a lot of frequency in customers because they use what they use, but if I can get them to buy more categories from us, we're going to be better off.
Bingo. Well, my last question is on trends and where this industry is headed and sort of shaping that future. Who here has a burning question they think will be interesting to the audience that they want answered from this group while we have them up there? Okay, we got two people here. All right, well, let's see what we have time for. So you go ahead first.
I'd like to get a couple, but we can
just do one.
Okay. So when I started in advertising in the 1970s in New York City, what everybody kept saying was, half the money you spend on advertising is wasted, but you never know which half. Mm-hmm. And what we tell our customers is that's absolutely unacceptable anymore. So considering the entire marketing mix that you guys deal with, and it looks like, in my cosmology, everything's an experiment until it works, right? So when you consider 100% of your marketing advertising dollars that you're putting out there, from billboards to remarketing and retargeting, whatever you do, how do you track that 100% to really know what half is working, what isn't, and then move more dollars into that?
Okay, so your simplest measurement and attribution answer to this, maybe even, what percentage of what you're doing is totally trackable to back to the sale, and otherwise, how do you look at that answer?
Google enhanced e-commerce. So that is our bread and butter.
I would agree with I would say, though, we are using Google enhanced e-commerce for things, but I still think on some level, if it was 50-50 in 1970s, maybe we're at 55-45. We've gotten mildly better. And we can track tons of stuff within a given campaign where it gets really sticky, as you could kind of guess from what Josh sort of said. Hey, as your easiest, you start talking about attribution models, and it all falls down. If I pull, there's a lot of basketball analogies that talk about attribution. The guy that passed in the ball that passed to Scottie Pippen, who passed it to Jordan, Jordan scored. Jordan got the point, but does the guy who passed it to Jordan get some credit? And so it gets very convoluted, and I think that I don't think you've got more data to look at, and you can maybe do some more experiments, but devices, the proliferation of channels, you can't even necessarily track anybody easily who goes from your phone to their desktop on your website. So the idea that we don't try to make any sort of, we continue to do what we can. We don't, though, we can invest a ton of time into it and really get to like 60-40, and so it's kind of a losing proposition until there's better tracking capabilities. And I think there's a lot of people out there that don't want you to have that tracking capability because it allows you to keep spending. Because if you knew, you'd stop, right?
Do you have an answer to this?
Yeah, for us, we spend a lot on PPC, so the stuff that comes to the web, it's easy. We can track a lot of that. 2/3 of our sales are offline, and we know that PPC has an impact on that too. So we've gone through phases where we say spend more on PPC, spend less on PPC, and then you watch some of the KPIs bounce up and down. So you definitely can't get to 100%, but we try to measure it through a percentage of new phone and new web sales and track that as a KPI to say this is adding value or it's not, and try to keep it in a good level.
Matt, if you can share, what percentage of your sales for U.S. Cargo is phone-based?
It's about 2/3.
2/3 is phone. And so are you able to do call tracking through the website? So to know when people, maybe search a certain word, a non-brand competitive word, a certain phone number appears. When they call that number, it gets then tracked back to that person?
Yes, it's not back to the person, but we're using Google Phone extensions to track it back to the campaign. There's still some gap in there. We're not getting the fact that phone call drove a sale. We are getting the fact that campaign drove phone calls, so we can see how much a phone call is worth on average. So we've tested tools in the past, didn't have success. It was probably 5 years ago. I know the technology is probably different now, but we know there's a gap there, and it's just something we acknowledge. And we look at things at a category level to understand what percentage of this category is phone versus web, and if it's heavy phone, we're more comfortable with some of the PPC metrics looking a little worse than a category that's mostly web.
Yeah, and we use CallRail because 20% of our sales come in over the phone. People just want to talk and get recommended products or any add-ons and figuring out how to use grant money. So we use CallRail, and it'll track all the way back to the customer service rep. So yeah, that's really important to us.
So we're a CallRail user as well. So to the extent, to answer your question, that you can track, we try to. But did I know that when that phone call rang, what marketing, did they see a Facebook post that they didn't click on? And so I'm going to see I spent $1 on an ad that you didn't convert, but then later you called in. Triangulating all that together is still very, very difficult. And so I would say we're marginally better, and then in the days when we're really sort of honest with each other, we just tell each other we got a lot of data, and we think we're doing a better job tracking. We're probably not.
No, I like that. We're 10% better. That feels fair. It's been, 40 years.
Don't believe the 10x, 10%. That's what you want to focus on.
Yeah. We are kind of out of time, but I'm going to say lightning round real quick because I did promise that we would go through the trends question. So the last question, and please do answer quickly, unpack this big question quickly, which is just tell us about the next, instead of talking about the past, give us the thing you're looking most forward to over the next year / where things are going in the next 3 to 5 years, just as people are planning their e-commerce business, growing their own sites. What should they have on their radar that you have on your radar that is helpful to think about how this space is going to shape up from your insider perspective? So go ahead.
Yeah, I want to jump on that one. It's add value. Ultimately, Google's getting smarter and smarter. If you add more value than your competitor and they buy from you, Google knows it because they know who goes back to organic after they've already visited a product site. So if you go after a long tail, you're going to win. So I'm really excited. The more that Google gets the spammers and everybody else out, less competition and more people to provide authentic value.
All right, I got a couple. AI, yeah, these are predictions in sort of true form.
Just print out an article.
No,
Forbes says.
AI and machine learning is not going to pan out the way everybody thinks it will be. I think it's really a kind of a fad. The big guys will do it well, and the rest of us will just sort of like watch in awe. I think mobile for the last few years, mobile's been a discussion for the last 10 years, but I think we're still figuring out how do you get all this stuff onto the screen and just fit on there correctly. And I think there's discussions now starting like, how do I actually, design the experience for a mobile person, not just take my desktop website and cram it all onto a little device. More about that experience. And then third is from a systems perspective, I think you're going to see the continuing decline of the need of the IT guy and more of systems convergence, and so more all-in-one type things like Magento, like a Shopify, that reduces the barrier for people to enter the e-com space.
Yeah, I was going to go that direction a little bit, just with that barrier lowering, and we've seen it the last couple of years in our space, just competitors getting better, finding ways to add value and do something different than your competitor. Make sure that that's clear and that USP is out there. Otherwise, we're keeping our eyes on personalization. There's different tools. Dynamic yield is one we looked at pretty significantly, where you can personalize your website on a one-to-one basis based on the user. The opportunities are endless, which is exciting and scary all at the same time. But the technology is really cool, and there's just features built in that around A/B testing and different ways that you can find, if I'm trying to target Rick, what does Rick want to buy? And I'm going to put the recorders right in front of him that he wants to buy so that he buys the 100 pack. Yeah. That technology is cool, and it's coming. It's out there already.
Right on. Okay, cool. So a lot to look forward to. Thank you all, panelists, for showing up. Let's give them a round of applause. I've got a gazillion more questions. I think they do too, and I think half of you want to fight each other about the future of Amazon and e-commerce. So I look forward to seeing that broil after this. And I hope you all come back to join us for the next talk. Next month, we're going to cover content marketing. So we just decided this. And so we'll be touching on inbound, different formats of content, but from real people in this space building high-performing websites. How are they driving e-commerce, search traffic, whatever, through content marketing? So a lot of interesting things to learn from there. And we do this every single month totally for free because we believe that the community is better if we all learn from each other, and the team at Sculpt puts it on. So thank you, the team at Sculpt, for doing this. We really appreciate you as well. Please do keep coming back every single month. You can subscribe at wearesculpt.com/Let's Get Digital, or test our SEO capabilities and just Google search Let's Get Digital, and we'll see if we pop up there. And feel free to watch this afterwards and share with other people and invite a coworker to come with. Thank you all for coming, and enjoy. Have a safe drive back. See ya.